Good morning, Florida lacrosse fans. Tuesday, May 10th, 3 days removed from Championship Saturday and the touch of Championship Sunday, as we'll get to. This is Morning Coffee with Florida Lacrosse News. Lee Roggenberg, your host. If you see that little subscribe button and it's still white, click on it to change its color so it showed that you've been subscribed. Encourage others to do so. Nice shout out to everyone I had a chance to talk to at Final Four weekend in Naples. It's always enjoyable to finally meet people that you've spent time talking about or have corresponded with, but maybe have never met face to face. Fans of the website, all the rest. It was a wonderful time for me, and I'm sure it was a wonderful time for everyone who attended a remarkable Final Four weekend. Before we get to that, just quickly, this weekend upcoming, May 14th and 15th in Sebring, we have the FLN Florida Prep Showcase event. Slots are filling up rapidly. There's some left, but not many. So if you would like to get to see a showcase that not only will be giving you high-end training from college coaches, but also an insight into their cultures and how they go about deciding whether someone wants to be recruited. And believe me, if you think it's all about talent, you're kidding yourself. Make sure to go to our website, go click on the article that's on the homepage. You'll see the registration information, the cost, the location, all the rest of it, links to the registration. I can guarantee you're going to find this showcase to be very much worth your while if you're interested in playing lacrosse at the next level. Okay. Let's go back quickly to last year. Those who remember my Final Four rant after missing last year and all the issues that occurred up in Austin Tyndall, I can assure you that an awful lot of those wrinkles were ironed out very nicely. When I criticize, I also praise. I wanted to praise the FHSAA, who really was able to get a very nice event, certainly given the weather challenge on Saturday, keeping the schedule pretty much going properly on Friday and Saturday. The venue is wonderful. You've heard me say that before. It's even better when you experience it. It keeps one of the interesting things you'll kind of find out, where I found out when I was sitting in the press box, was that because of the lengthy roof overhang over the stands, it magnified the noise and the cheering, which made it a very nice atmosphere. It's really, it's really a shame that we didn't have any bands from the schools. I know it's kind of a decent expense and it might be difficult to do, but if one of the schools next year that participates can get their band there for a game, I think you're going to find it's going to make it an even better experience. So I wanted to congratulate FHSAA lacrosse administrator Alex Ozuna and his staff, putting on an excellent show, and pretty much, really no major complaints at all about the situation. Now, one of the nice things is I was able to sit down with Alex. We discussed a lot of things off the record. Obviously wanted to get some pretty good insights into the power ranking approach. And we were able to do so. He's agreed to let me send him a write-up, see if I've got the views right. And those things that he's willing to go on the record with, we'll be able to go ahead and do so. And, those that we'll keep kind of quiet between us, which, believe me, isn't anything that had to do with power rankings. He was very forthright about that, as you'll see when we eventually get that up. Probably figure about a week turnaround or so. And you'll be able to see a little more detail, and it allows also the coaches to get some more clarity on what to do into their scheduling going forward. So, again, congratulations to the FHSAA for doing a marvelous job. I did get some complaints early that NFHS broadcasts were freezing up a little bit earlier in the broadcast. it seems like as the weekend went on, that didn't occur. Thankfully, the very last game, which I've partly watched so far, is in its entirety. There was a worry that the internet, at least the internet in my location, went down 2 minutes to go in the game, and I was worried that we were going to lose those 2 minutes. And certainly those who remember last year's NFHS horrendous semifinal coverage would certainly be worried that that had happened, but it did come through completely as a complete game, so I don't have to worry about that part. And we'll see how it goes when I get some time over the next couple of weeks to watch even more. Tomorrow we're going to be focusing on all the college stuff that we basically have kind of ignored for the last 7 days or so, as we've gone pretty much wire to wire with the high school coverage. And believe me, there's plenty to catch up with tomorrow on the college side, including the major disappointment of Jacksonville not being invited to the tournament after their 1-goal loss in their SoCon championship. The last one. And that's one of the things we're going to get into also tomorrow, is that SoCon's going away for lacrosse, and Jacksonville will be moving to the ASUN conference starting next year. Okay. One last thing on that NFHS broadcasting. Those of you, again, I've only experienced it so far in the last game of Saturday, and whether the broadcaster himself was exhausted at that point, I don't know if he was switching on and off. Didn't have a color commentator. Had all the energy of a piece of fruit lying on the countertop, unfortunately. To me, the best game ever played in the state, and he made it seem like it was cricket. So, except not as exciting. And so, we'll have to sort of wait and see. Okay. On the first day, we went over Wednesday late afternoon, got to the stadium, just did a walk around, saw Alex setting up the things, and got back, getting ready. So got over there Thursday, all set up, and we had the boys semifinals. St. Andrews 11-3 over Jesuit, Benjamin 13-5 over Bowles, St. Thomas 12-10 over Plant, and Ponte 13-11 over Winter Park. So obviously the 2A games were more competitive than the 1A games were. Chris Polanski, the Ponte Vedra coach, made an interesting comment to me earlier in the day about some of these kids have, who are first timers. A lot of them will kind of come out nervous in a semifinal game, and that's to be expected. We didn't have a championship in 2020. His team had not been there since 2019, so only appropriate that there would be some nerves on kids to start. The first game, St. Andrews over Jesuit. There were a couple of early possessions for Jesuit that looked promising, but once they faded, St. Andrews comfortably took the game over. Those of you who've read the thoughts on day one on the website, I think that what it really came down to was that Jesuit's schedule this year was a lot better on paper going into the year than it turned out to be. And so they kind of missed out on some tougher games that would have really sort of helped. And, once again, a point I've made very often is that first time you play the St. Andrews zone, it's very difficult. You can't really prepare for it because you can't mimic it in practice. So, Jesuit had a great year. It's a great program. It's going to be around for a while. And we'll see how they change or try to adapt, and maybe see if they can get a couple of more tougher games in next year. I know it's very difficult over in Tampa, but if they could maybe maybe find a way to schedule a doubleheader, maybe up in Orlando, maybe if they could see if they could play one of the Southeast teams, and to meet them maybe in Orlando would be a good idea, or somewhere else. Maybe even community school in Naples, I think, might be a great place for a doubleheader for where teams up in the Tampa, Sarasota area can play teams coming over from the Southeast. And I think that would help. They were able to get Oak Hall to come over. I'm going to assume that they're going to return the trip next year. That's obviously a good game too. But, when you kind of looked at that schedule, Oak Hall, Riverview, Berkeley Prep certainly had years that were a little bit less than their normal years. And I think it really kind of hurt them when it came down to this game. But St. Andrews is so tough. Again, this is a team that beat Ponte Vedra, that lost to, let's say, they lost to St. Thomas, the only loss in state. Lost to Boys Latin, lost to a Dallas Jesuit team that's now ranked nationally by Inside Lacrosse. Just plays a very physical game, plays a very smart game on offense, and you saw a typical St. Andrews game in that semifinal. Second game was Benjamin 13-5 over Bowles. Bowles, again, having a great year, getting back to the Final Four again. Coach West obviously will be disappointed in how the game played out in the semifinals, but we had talked early in the year, and this was he wasn't really able to adjust the schedule the way he wanted to, and I think you'll see a different bowl schedule next year. Benjamin has been just ripping it up in the second half of the season, and just like they dispensed with St. Edwards and some of the other teams on their schedule in the second half. They played an excellent game against Bowles and kept Bowles from getting any real momentum. They dominated possession. I can tell you, though, that when Bowles had the ball, they were effective. They just didn't have much of it, particularly in the second half. And Benjamin just played an excellent game. Coach Cordry's team, the players, face-off specialist Dylan Firschman, who we'll get back to in the finals, had an excellent game. And it was one of those games when you can't get possession, it's not going to go your way. St. Thomas over Plant 12-10. We had talked a lot going into the game about Plant being a wild card, and you could kind of see it in this game. St. Thomas, which is so experienced, plays so well together, was just grinding them down. It was 12-4 after three quarters. Plant had all sorts of difficulty with St. Thomas's inverts, inverting a midi back in the left corner, and basically being the defender to get to good shots, which they converted on a number of times. And Plant kind of was, to be honest, I thought Plant in the first three quarters was a little tentative on offense, and maybe didn't quite use their off ball enough. And then the fourth quarter kicked in, and remarkably, all of a sudden, Plant just said, the heck with it. Let's just go for it. And they outscored St. Thomas 6-0 in the fourth quarter, and got within 12-10 with a little under, right around 3 minutes to go or so. Couldn't quite get anything after that, as St. Thomas was able to run some clock and eventually pull out the game. But Turner Ashby is a remarkable talent. The speed and quickness that he showed getting through St. Thomas's defense a couple of times was just high end. If you're a Plant fan, just start at 12 minutes to go in the game and run that one on loop all summer to see just how far your program has come. To do that to the team that won the state championship was a remarkable achievement. So just like we said, the wild card. Let's see how they rebound next year. Ponte Vedra 13-11 win over Winter Park. This was easily the best game of the day. Having never seen Winter Park in person since I missed last year, I can tell you that I was extraordinarily impressed with how they played. This was a back and forth game, and I can tell you that This was a game that Winter Park led in the fourth quarter. And I had to be honest, I was surprised. They had lost 20. They lost 20 of the 26 faceoffs. And then Ponte Vedra finally winning the game with a 4-goal run in the fourth quarter in order to pull the game out. Winter Park's Bronson Dowdell impressed the heck out of me. And I think that, and Griffin Moore also just not far behind. Two very talented players, a lot of talent on the team. They're both juniors. They're both back. Ponte Vedra's Clemens Harper dominated the faceoff and certainly was a big difference maker. And interestingly enough, I'd made the comment in that article about seeing how STA will game plan him in the final. And it was 4 different goal scorers in that 4-goal run for Ponte Vedra, which was very impressive. And so, good for them. Nolan Parlett gave up a goal I'm sure he would want back at the end of the first half, which gave Winter Park a 6-4 lead, but really buckled down in the second half. And that shows to you the quality of the goalie he is. And Winter Park's Paul Pilgrim certainly wasn't far behind. So, that's the first day. Second day, we had the girls semifinals. No surprise, American Heritage Del Rey 20-8 over Naples, hometown team. It's unfortunate that this was the first game Friday. It would have been very interesting if it was, let's say, at 4:00, where a lot of the kids could have gotten out of school on time to get over for the game. I wasn't able to see the crowd very easily, but the one negative about Thursday and Friday afternoon games is that the home schools or the schools can't always get their students over there. And it would have been nice to have seen. Naples' Lane Calkins, a senior who's at Princeton, going to Princeton next year, was really impressive to me. She gave Heritage Del Rey's defense fits. Naples, it was 13-8 at the halftime. I was starting to get a little rider's cramp. But I can tell you that it was a wonderful up and down first half. But Heritage Del Rey went on, took the second half 7-0 and just gradually pulled away. Casey Roberts' huge game in 5 goals, 4 assists in that one. The Southwest has always had some pretty darn good girls lacrosse, and now we have Naples with an established program. Barron Collier in the past was very established. St. Stephen's and Out of Door Academy, both excellent programs too. Well, let's see how much more depth can continue to grow in that area and to make that area a really high-end girls lacrosse region, not just a section with, say, 3 or 4 teams on top. Okay, and then that, of course, left us with the Heritage Del Rey Lake Highland Prep final that we were kind of been expecting all year. And on the girls 2A side, that was you know what? I want to mention. I'm sorry. Lake Highland Prep 14-4 over Episcopal School of Jacksonville, the nightcap. Expected Lake Highland Prep to win, but not by that much. And a chunk of that probably is that Episcopal Jacksonville star Sophia Chepanik, when she scored the first goal for Episcopal, probably about 3-4 minutes into the game, she fell on her side awkwardly, clearly injured herself. Not sure what it was. Obviously, you don't like to speculate medically, but whether it was something on a strained muscle or potentially even a slight crack in a rib, the way that she fell and the way that she was hobbled the rest of the game, probably on the ground 3 more times, particularly after trying to shoot, I noticed, and just was not herself. And it's a shame to see her go out that way. Although we're going to be seeing she's a Clemson commit. Clemson is going to be in their first year of Division I lacrosse on the women's side next year, so she's certainly a key building block there. We'll certainly keep an eye on to see how she does there. And Lake Highland just once again showing how good they are. Casey Richburg, 4 goals and an assist. A little fun note. I ran into her dad, Scott, in the stands before the game. And Scott and my brother were business colleagues long ago back up in New York. So it's nice to see another Richburg family member in the lacrosse community who is lighting it up in her playing days. So Jacqueline Jaskowitz was quite a handful. Izzy Hughes was quite a handful in that game too. Now, we had said in the previews the 2A women's bracket was probably the most intriguing of all of the Final Four brackets, and that certainly held up very strongly. Vero Beach 7-6 over St. Thomas, and Bartram Trail 5-4 over Steinbrenner. And obviously, both of those games were. There was one remarkable thing about those two games, and that was that both winning teams were actually shut out in the second half of their games and had to hold on defensively. And I just, I don't think we've ever seen that before. I don't know if we'll ever see it again. And, Vero and St. Thomas had played a 10-8 game in the first round. And, obviously it was a pickup game. Joy Coffey, the Vero Beach goalie, this was a personal thing for her, having been injured in the semifinal game last year, not being able to play in the final. And so Vero jumped out to a 5-goal lead after 15 minutes. Teams were trading goals. It was 7-2 at the half. And then you basically saw St. Thomas. I won't say they dominated the second half because that wasn't really true of possession. They just shut down Vero defensively and allowed their team to chip away a little bit. I gave out in an article a shout out to Ava Joveno, who I thought played a remarkable second half. Vero's team was pretty well spread out in who was getting the goals, and a little bit of a controversy at the end, but we cleaned it up. We cleared it up the next day. Basically, there was a rule change this year put in the girls' game that the clock, which normally would have stopped in the past within the last 2 minutes, actually runs unless the whistle is blown inside what they consider a scoring situation, which, from the way it was explained to me, if I've got this right, is basically the arc and then extended with a line to the end line. So that's why the clock did not stop. Unfortunately, St. Thomas tried to put the ball in a little quicker than the ref wanted to them. And to be fair, the Vero kids were not giving enough room. And so it was really kind of a judgment call where they should have stopped the clock. But I can tell you from a rules standpoint, it was not supposed to be stopped. And that's why St. Thomas kind of lost nearly half that last minute to being able to tie the game up. And congrats to Vero. They moved on too. And then the nightcap was just as exciting. Bartram and Steinbrenner. Bartram jumping out to a 5-1 lead in the first half. Steinbrenner getting it back to, I think, 5-2 at the half. And then just in the entire second half, Bartram's defense trying to hold off Steinbrenner's high-powered offense. And again, that's one that if you're a fan of the girls' game, watch that battle in the second half, the Steinbrenner offense versus the Bartram defense. That was one that you could probably learn an awful lot. I think if you're a coach maybe and you're relatively new to the girls' game, I would definitely watch that film if you wanted to learn how to play some defense. Okay, so again, this is sort of Final Four redemption time for both teams. Bartram falling short in the semis. Key injuries going into last year's semifinal really hurt them. And with Steinbrenner losing the 1-goal game to St. Thomas in last year's semifinal and the way it was done, certainly looking to do so. So again, basically, Bartram holding them off and setting it up so that we had a Bartram-Vero final, like kind of the American Heritage Del Rey final. Okay, now we get to Saturday. Oh boy, what a day for lacrosse! Everything that could have happened on Saturday did. We had an absolutely wonderful girls 1A final. This is one I got wrong. Do my mea culpa now. I just didn't see how Heritage Delray was going to lose, but give Lake Highland Prep the credit. They played to their strengths. They added some wrinkles. I wasn't haven't had a chance yet to debrief both coaches. It looked to me like the Lake Highland defense had came up with an interesting wrinkle. And again, I might be completely wrong about this, but it looked like they were able to, in effect, flood the defensive zone, but with constant movement within the arc, instead of necessarily following the player into the arc. And that sort of took away the easier passing lanes that Heritage Delray was used to using. And it seemed to be very effective, certainly in the first half. Also noticed that there was an attempt to get some of the bigger Lake Highland players ahead of steam, well away from the arc area and spread out on the wings so that they had a chance to do a little weaving. And it was a little difficult for American Heritage Delray, whose kids are a little smaller, to handle that as they were getting inside looks and getting a lot of free positions out of it. And even a little bit of inside play where, again, the size of Lake Highland was utilized. And then we came down to the Heritage Delray comeback late in the game, down 3 goals. Heritage able to get it back to 1, and then set up a wonderful look inside where, unfortunately, the player shot the ball and hit the Lake Highland defender in the head. And that's considered a dangerous shot, whatever we want to call it. And unfortunately, instead of getting a great chance at tying the game, it was the second yellow card for that player. So she was ejected. Obviously, there was not going to be a goal in the play. And Heritage Delray had to play woman down for a couple of minutes very late in the game. Heritage Delray was pretty much able to run out most of the clock to end the game, and Lake Highland, and also score an empty net goal while doing it. So Lake Highland, the big upset, 6-goal loser in the regular season. I know they don't want to say it was an upset, but let's not kid ourselves. It was a little bit of an upset. And congratulations to the Highlanders. It's kind of funny. I was taking a couple of minutes on YouTube last night, and popping up on my side panel was the live Lake Highland Prep sports ESPYs. I was one of, 60 people who caught it, saw the girls being congratulated on stage, and certainly a wonderful achievement for Coach Robinson. And it's certainly not to take anything away from the Heritage Delray season, which was also remarkable, a top 25 ranking in the nation in inside lacrosse. Now, again, my little pet peeve, and not to take anything away from the Lake Highland celebration, but no, the Max Preps national rankings are not to be used. Not all the schools are in the database. Not all the teams are even close to finishing the season. They're not going to end up as the national champs. And it's kind of silly to use that. Yeah, when it comes to the girls, inside lacrosse's top 25 is certainly more accurate than Max Preps is, even with their sometimes a little bias on the Northeast. There's still, everyone needs to sort of, if you're an announcer, bury the Max Prep stuff, please. Use it just for in-state. Okay, so on to the second game, the boys 1A, St. Andrews and Benjamin. And again, the crowds were much nicer on Saturday because obviously people could get to them. And, Benjamin actually went home on Thursday night because a number of their players had AP tests or whatever the similarity is these days on Friday that they had to take, so they couldn't stay over for the weekend. And St. Andrews went home too. There's, when you're an hour and a half away, there's no point in staying overnight on Thursday night. The game was very physical, very physical. One hit that I think was a little over the top was an unreleasable check early in the game by St. Andrews player. Unfortunately, the Benjamin player was I think was out for the game and, was on the ground for quite a while. And, again, I've made this plea before. Head and neck have got to be off limits. You've got to discipline yourselves and just learn to stay away from that type of hit. Regardless of whether it wasn't exactly a direct targeting hit, it still was pretty questionable from my angle. So basically, the game went. St. Andrews was controlling a good deal. One of the surprises of the game was that Nick Golubov really held his own with Dylan Furshman at the face-off circle. Pretty even on the draws. Furshman did get some great looks on quick pops, but was not able to dominate possession the way they had in the past. And that certainly made a big difference too. Benjamin is used to playing that zone, so it's a little bit different. This was not a runaway game by any means. St. Thomas had gone up 5-2, and eventually opened it up to 8-3 with 11 minutes to go. But Benjamin went on a 4-1 run, made it 9-7 with 2:42 to go, and had a man up, which unfortunately for them, when they were not able to convert it, we might have had a very interesting final couple of minutes. So St. Andrews was able to hold on for the 9-7 win to repeat as 1A champs. And Benjamin's certainly showing that they were the second best 1A team by the end of the season too. So congratulations to both teams. These kids know each other very well, and just played another of a great series of St. Andrews Benjamin games over basically the past decade or so. And we'll look forward to seeing what happens next year. Now we got to the girls 2A, Bartram Trail, Vero Beach, repeat of last year's semifinal. Those who remember 2016, it was Bartram who ended Vero's championship run. And this game was just also remarkable for many reasons. Bartram Trail getting out to a 6-0 lead. Vero pulling it back to 6-3 at the half. And then spending the second half, basically with 18 minutes to go in the second half, we got a huge rain delay. Fair lightning delay because they don't stop for rain for most of the time. So it was about 90 minutes. I think it was about 90 minutes or so, maybe not quite as long. Maybe the second one was longer, but this was a very lengthy delay. They went off. It was 6-5 at the time. Vero had come out hot in the second half. A couple of good goals. They were gaining possession. Weather went off, and it gave Bartram Trail a chance to basically regroup. They came out of the locker room and scored a quick goal, make it 7-5. But with 5:40 to go in the game, Vero's Carly Norris was able to score and drew a yellow flag while doing it. So on the man up, Vero drew another yellow flag, making Bartram 2 women down in that last period. But Norris was able to tie the game up at 7, but Bartram kept it from being more damaging. Eventually got the ball back. Izzy DeFato with the game winner with 1:22 left from the free position. Bartram won the ensuing faceoff and ran off the rest of the clock. Congrats to Coach Jakowick, who I believe now, again, people can check on this, but the only woman coach that now has 2 state championships to her name in the state. And that's a great accomplishment for her in the program. When you look around, obviously, if you look at the FHSAA record book, it's only from when they sanctioned the sport. But, you had basically Jeff Goldberg at 10, I believe, and Shannon Dean at 9, and Chris Spalding at 4. And now you look at 2A and both the boys and girls sides, and we have multiple winners now on both sides. Coach Jackowicz, congratulations for the accomplishment in the program. And then we get to the boys 2A final with St. Thomas Aquinas and Ponte Vedra. And you talk about a heavyweight back and forth battle. Unfortunately, we had another weather delay before the game started. It came down to a 10:30 p.m. start. And believe me, no one left the stands. Those stands were rocking all game long. That's kind of where I heard it the most with the overhang. I was right behind the Ponte Vedra section, and I can tell you they were going all game long, and I could hear from the other side the St. Thomas people going all game long. Game came out intense, went to the second quarter intense, went to the third quarter intense, ratcheted up even more in the fourth quarter. Those of you who said, I think this is the greatest game that's ever been played in the state. To do it under these conditions and circumstances, now maybe someone will argue with it. Certainly the Benjamin St. Thomas triple overtime semifinal was incredible. And I'm sure there's going to be some people who, well, what about this? What about that? And yeah, there's been some great games, but this was a state title game after about a 90-minute rain delay where the teams had to be in their locker rooms. And coming out and starting at 10:30 p.m., that's daunting. That's not the easiest circumstance. I had a little bit of pushback against some of the people online who were saying, well, how can they do this to the kids? You've got to, are we thinking about the kids? And it's sort of like, okay, you dip into your pocket, you pay for the extra hotel night for, approximately 120 people who would have to be there for another hotel night. If you wanted to finish this on Sunday morning. And I can tell you there wasn't a person in the crowd, on the field, a ref, the FHSAA, the players themselves, the coaches, none of them wanted to come back the next day and finish this thing. As I said on the tweet, this is going to be, regardless of whether you won or lost this game, this is the game you're going to be telling your grandkids about because of the circumstances. We actually ended up playing into Sunday morning. We had Midnight Madness lacrosse. I mean, how can you knock that? Come on. We all had a marvelous time that. Now, before I get into, let me kind of recap the game because it was terrific. I didn't do much of a write-up on it and on the Saturday, Sunday recap article because I wanted to just enjoy it. Sit back. I'm going to watch it in its full, in its entirety. And I think I'm going to do an article purely on that game. It's not realistic at this point with 12 games in 3 days for me to be able to write up full game recaps on all of them. It just can't be done anymore. This game was so special. I want to go back and do my normal article on this when I get a chance in a week or so. But suffice to say, back and forth early, Ponte Vedra scoring goal of a couple of minutes left, winning the next face-off, being able to trying to hold the ball. Unfortunately, they stepped out of the restraining area, turning it over. And then St. Thomas's Chase Geary scoring the tying goal with a minute left. And it was a very interesting game because at any other time, what he did with a minute left would not have been remarkable. But when the pressure's on and you get a ball low at near GLE, and you have a chance to shoot, an awful lot of kids would have just fired and hoped for the best on that one. But he kept his poise and face dodged to the middle to get the great angle in front and was able to put that home. And then 10 seconds later, he swings in on the wing from the faceoff, gathers the ball, goes in, and instead of making the finesse move, he makes the power move, bounces off a check, gets a little bit to the right, gets his hands free, and nails the game winner 10 seconds after tying the game. Chase, you're going to be remembered for that for a long time. Certainly your school's going to remember that for a long time. And those highlight clips will certainly be there So congratulations to St. Thomas. And I know that after the game, this was, the Ponte Vedra kids. I don't want you to, you know, hopefully you'll understand pretty soon that you were part of something absolutely remarkable that night. And you need to hold your heads up too. You had a great year. Someone had to win and someone had to lose that game. But I can tell you that there are plenty of instances in sports history where it's the event and the game that gets remembered, not necessarily who won. And it's you guys played a great game, and St. Thomas kids, you played a great game. Uh, this is going to be one we'll remember a long time. So don't worry. No one is judged in their life on what happens in a high school sporting event. You're going to be judged later on by how good a person you are, how good a father, how good a husband, a son, the whole bit. And I can tell you that from a lot of the comments after the event, you're already well on your way to doing that. So don't take this one too hard. Okay. All right. Well, we've run pretty late on this one, but just if you haven't subscribed, please do so. Should have done this earlier. Sorry. And congratulations to all 4 state champions. Thank you to the FHSAA. You put on a terrific event this year. Certainly learned from what happened last year. And let's keep growing the sport, honoring the sport, respecting it. I just got an update. We have 12 slots left for the showcase. So again, almost half of them went yesterday. So if you want to get there, please do so. This is Lee Roggenberg, Florida Lacrosse News, saying so long from the Sunshine State.